Normally, when we talk about stereo equipment, we think of standard size components. I don't know, about 17 inches wide. But what if you don't have the room? What if you just don't want a big component anymore? Well, there's a lot of options, and today I'm going to talk about 4 tiny components that you'll love. It's a refreshing take on, instead of filling up an entire rack, filling up one shelf. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about my favorite little mini system that I'm making no concessions with.
Black, wife too. Don't turn this to no controversy. It's my boo. I can make $250,000 off a haiku, and I can make another quarter off it ×2. If it's money on the table, I'll be on it like Bobby or Epic. You peep the aesthetic. It's hard to forget it. I hear you talk.
You don't really need all 4 of these components. Really, you can get away with 2. Well, actually, it's 3, but we'll get into that later. 2 of these components are really what I would consider to be high-end and punch way above their price point. But you don't really need them. But if you get them, it's going to sound a lot better. So what do you want to start with? You want to start with the amp, you want to start with the source, you want to start with the DAC, you want to start with the CD player. I love half-rack components. I love little amplifiers, and I love that Class D has gotten good enough and cheap enough that I don't feel like I'm losing anything at decent listening levels, 85 dB and below. The little amplifiers I'm going to talk about are the Fosi Audio V3s. They are an amplifier that uses the Texas Instruments 3255 amp chipset, and companies have gotten better and better at eking out every last ounce of performance from this little mighty chip. The V3 is truly a power amplifier. There is no volume knob. There is no volume control. On the back, you have single-ended RCA inputs, 1 for each channel. That's why you need 2 of these. Or you have a balanced XLR input. On the front, you can switch between RCA or XLR. You can turn it on, you can turn it off, or what I like to do, leave it in auto. So when it senses a signal, it turns on automatically. I think these are coming in about $130 a piece, and usually there's a 15% off or 10% off coupon. So for less than $250, you can get a pair of these. I have a 48 volt, I think 10 amp or 5 amp power supply. That can get a little pricey sometimes, and it will add to the cost. But the takeaway is, if you put a really beefy power supply, you can get more power out of these little amps, and it sounds great. Sounds spectacular, clean, quick, articulate, dynamic. You can't really go wrong. Now, I don't know the longevity of them, but this is another half-rack component that I love. This is a TEAC integrated amp. It's the AI303. The only problem with this thing, it's $1,000, and I think it's 25 watts versus well over 100 watts for the Fosi Audio. This is great, but not everybody can afford it. But you can't have a straight power amp unless you have some type of preamp-like device running it. And well, of course, we're going to talk about Of course, I'm talking about the WiiM Ultra, and I don't keep talking about the WiiM Ultra because I don't know. You just can't not talk about it. It has an integrated streamer. It has a phono preamp. It can take an analog input. It can take an optical input, a coaxial input. It has an optical output, which means you can attach an outboard DAC to it. And it has volume control. And it has room correction. And it has a 10-band EQ. And it has a parametric EQ. And it has a headphone connection. It has it all. And it comes in at $330. Does it sound perfect and great and the best thing ever? It actually sounds really, really good. even with its inboard DAC. But you can connect an outboard DAC. The most important thing about this product is it has HDMI and it has variable volume control, which means when you connect the Fosi Audio V3s, you have an entire system, just those two components. So $330, I don't know, $250, we're talking about, carry the 7 square root of $580 for a very capable system that puts out a lot of power in a minuscule footprint. There is just nothing out there that can compete with the WiiM Ultra from a price standpoint, from a functionality standpoint, from an option standpoint, and from a performance standpoint. There's nothing out there. If there is, please put it in the comments. If there's anything out there that can do what it does at twice the price, please put it in the comments. And if just say hi in the comments if you want to. WiiM Ultra, fantastic. You get a remote control, you're set. Right now, that is the system that's running in my living room. I have the new JBL Stage 250Bs or something like that. It's the 5¼ inch bookshelf version of the new JBL line. And I don't feel like I'm missing a thing. Oh, also it has bass management, subwoofer output, high pass, low pass filters, the whole thing. It's got it all. But if you want to step up, if you want to up your game, this is the Jellie Labs J2 socketed DAC. This thing is awesome. There are a couple different ways you can spec this. You can spec it with an AKM 4493 DAC chip or an AKM 4499 DAC chip. I would suggest going for the 99 if you can afford it. There's nothing wrong with the 4493. Actually, it's spectacular and you will save a little bit of money. But if you want to improve your DAC game, basically you're going to have to spend about $1,000, $1,300 to get a significant performance increase. Basically, this DAC at $430 is as good, if not better, than DACs that are $1,000. And I will give you an example. Denafreps, Aries, whatever the previous generation was before it, I wasn't listening to it anymore because I actually had the 4493 J2 version in. The 4499 version is even better, and it's $430 if you get it in the aluminum case and you don't need a USB. There is no volume control, so this is a fixed voltage output. That's why you need the WiiM Ultra, so that you can still control volume. If you want to up this tiny little system to the next level, you optical out of the WiiM Ultra into the J2, and the J2 also has socketed op amps, which means you can take out the stock Texas Instruments op amps, which are already very good, and you can change them out for a Sparkos or for a Burson or for whatever op amps you want. Personally, for me, I like the Sparkos op amps. Boom! You get a huge soundstage, incredible detail, incredible air, almost like you're adding a tube, but it's not a bad tube, it's a good tube. And you can continue to upgrade as you get the budget for it. If you want to just pull out the ultimate in performance of this system, you need to get the J2 DAC. You can really get any DAC you want, but trust me, I've listened to a lot of DACs and there's nothing better at $430 than the Jellie Labs J2, and you can connect the last device that we're going to talk about. The TEAC PD-301-X CD player / FM tuner. This is for the people that love their physical media. Technically, you don't need it because you have one of the best streamers out there. But if you like physical media like I do, and most people that have spent any time listening to streaming versus CD will tell you that CDs hooked up to the same DAC sound better than streaming, even if it's high-res streaming. I don't know why, but it just does. The TEAC PD-301-X CD player is a little bit dated in its design, if not a lot dated in its design. It looks a little bit old school and actually matches perfectly to their integrated amplifier. Of course, it plays CDs. It plays CDs gaplessly. There's also a USB input on the front, and it plays MP3s. Okay? I don't love that. I wish it played FLAC, or I wish it played WAV files, but I think it only plays MP3s. That's something I wish they would update. It also comes with a little tiny remote control. Price on it is $550. There's not a lot of small CD players out there. If you know of some that are a better deal, put it in the comments. This thing is built out of metal, though. It's a very good build quality. Runs off of 12 volt DC, the little barrel connector, which means you can put a linear power supply on this CD player. And that's one of the reasons why I love it, because you can improve the performance of this thing with a linear power supply. CD players with linear power supplies tend to be very expensive. Now remember, we're talking about small components here. So there are probably some larger full-size components out there that are less expensive. But if you want that FM tuner and you want an awesome CD player, then you should get this. It sounds great on its own with the RCA outputs. And since it's a CD player, it means it has its own DAC inside. But for me, of course, I like having my really, really good DAC, which is the Jellie Labs J2. So what you have to do, and this is kind of wonky, is you take the coaxial output on the TEAC into the coaxial input on the WiiM Ultra, and then you take the optical output on the WiiM Ultra into the Jellie Labs, and then you take the balanced outputs from the Jellie Labs J2 into the balanced inputs of the Fosi Audio V3. Did you get that? I know, it's a little complicated. Probably not the ideal way to do it, but that's the way I did it, and it worked out pretty well for me. All in, my ultimate tiny system costs $1,560. If you're on a budget though, you obviously don't need the CD player and you don't need the external DAC, so that will take the budget down to $580. If you know of some products out there that are small in form factor and you can put a whole bunch of components on one shelf, please put it in the comments. If you like this video and you want a really high-end set of small bookshelf speakers, you need to check out my video on the Amphion Argon 1. I will link it right here or here. Please like and subscribe if you want to become part of the best hi-fi community in the world. Sign up for my Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Patron-only Zooms, patron-only Discord, patron-only Facebook group, and you get to connect with like-minded, positive people. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe.